Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be writing a post like this, but I feel like I need advice and, honestly, I'm not sure where else to turn. The past few days have been a complete whirlwind, and I'm still trying to make sense of it all. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible, but it's hard because I'm feeling so much right now. Here's what happened. I'm 36, married to my wife, Sarah, for 10 years. We have 2 young kids, a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. Our marriage has had its ups and downs, like any relationship, but for the most part, I thought we were happy. Sarah has always been a loving wife and an amazing mom. She's dedicated to the family, and we have a pretty balanced life together. Sure, there are moments when we both get a little too busy or tired, but I always thought that was normal. A few months ago, I started noticing a few odd things. Nothing major, but small changes. Sarah would sometimes get home later than usual from running errands, but she would always give me a quick excuse, an extra stop, traffic, etc. Her phone usage also increased, and I noticed she would be more secretive about it. She'd lock her phone when I walked into the room or quickly hide it if I was nearby. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she just wanted some privacy, or maybe she was texting friends and didn't want me to see it. I didn't think much of it, but it was enough to make me start feeling a little uncomfortable. It wasn't until last week that everything came crashing down. It all started innocently enough. I was cleaning out the bedroom closet. We had been talking about getting rid of some old clothes, shoes, and items we didn't use anymore. I wasn't looking for anything unusual, just tidying up the space. The closet wasn't exactly organized, and as I was reaching for a box of old winter clothes in the back corner, something caught my eye. At first, I didn't know what it was. A small, velvet pouch tucked behind a stack of clothes. I pulled it out, assuming it was just an old piece of jewelry or something Sarah had forgotten about. But when I opened it, I froze. Inside the pouch was a wedding ring. It wasn't mine. It wasn't even one I recognized. I thought maybe it was an old family heirloom, but the moment I held it in my hand, I knew it wasn't just any ring. The engraving on the inside was clear: Ryan and Emily, December 17, 2016. I stared at it for a long time, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt like the room was spinning. Ryan? Who was Ryan? I racked my brain, trying to think if there was anyone named Ryan who was close to Sarah. But the name didn't ring any bells. I didn't know a Ryan. I immediately felt a wave of dread wash over me. I kept staring at the ring, wondering if I was misinterpreting things. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this ring didn't belong to me. It wasn't a gift from a friend or a family member. It was a wedding ring, and it was clearly connected to someone named Ryan. My mind raced. Was this Sarah's affair? Was she married to someone else? Or was she involved with someone who had this ring, maybe even secretly? There were so many questions, but my gut told me it wasn't a mistake. My wife had been hiding this from me, and I had no idea how deep this went. After finding the ring, I couldn't sleep. I didn't know what to do with it, and I certainly didn't know how to bring it up with Sarah. My mind kept racing with possibilities. What if she's been seeing someone else? How long has this been going on? Why would she keep something like this hidden from me? I couldn't shake the image of the ring in my hand. Ryan and Emily. It was clearly personal. It wasn't just some random item that could be easily explained away. I kept telling myself that maybe there was a reasonable explanation, but I didn't believe it anymore. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that something was seriously wrong. I tried to approach it logically, but my emotions were all over the place. Every time I thought about Sarah, my chest would tighten. I felt betrayed. But at the same time, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it wasn't what I thought. But if that was the case, why was she hiding the ring in the first place? And why did it have a name on it that didn't belong to either of us? I decided to take a deep breath and not confront her right away. I needed time to process everything, and I didn't want to accuse her without understanding what was really going on. But I knew deep down that I had to find answers. I couldn't live in this state of confusion. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't focus on anything. Every time I saw Sarah, I felt like I was looking at someone who was a complete stranger. I kept wondering how much of her life I didn't know, how much of our marriage had been a lie, and how could she betray me like this? I needed a plan. I needed to figure out how to get the truth from her. I didn't want to accuse her outright without some evidence, but I also knew I couldn't just let this go. I needed to know who Ryan was, what this ring meant, and how deep this affair really was. That night, Sarah seemed off. She was quieter than usual, almost like she could sense the tension in the air. I tried to act normal, but I could tell something was bothering her too. Every time our eyes met, she would quickly look away. It was almost as if she was trying to avoid my gaze, and I hated it. We hadn't really fought about anything recently, so why did it feel like she was hiding something? After the kids went to bed, we were sitting on the couch, and I decided it was time to ask her. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know if my suspicions were right or if I was just overreacting. But before I said anything, I needed to control my emotions. I didn't want to yell or accuse her. If there was an affair, I needed to hear the truth, not make assumptions. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though it shook slightly. She looked at me, startled. "What's wrong?" I hesitated for a moment. I had no idea how to approach this, but I had to start somewhere. "I found something today," I said quietly, avoiding her gaze. "Something in the closet." Sarah's eyes widened, and I could see her face go pale. She knew exactly what I was talking about. "What did you find?" she asked, her voice tense. I took a deep breath. "I found a ring. A wedding ring. Engraved with the names Ryan and Emily." Her face froze. She didn't say anything for a moment, and I could feel the air between us get thicker. It felt like time had stopped. I couldn't read her expression. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She just looked blank. "Sarah, what is this?" I pressed, my voice cracking with emotion. "Why was it in our closet? Why didn't you tell me about Ryan? Is this something I need to be worried about?" For the first time, Sarah looked at me directly, her eyes filled with a mix of shame and fear. "Jeremy, I didn't want you to find out like this," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think." I sat there, waiting for her to explain. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my mind racing for an answer that I could accept, something that would make sense. But nothing she said could undo what I had already found. "Then what is it?" I asked, my voice tight with anger and confusion. "Why do you have someone else's wedding ring hidden in our closet? Who is Ryan? And why didn't you tell me about him?" She swallowed hard, looking down at her hands. He's someone from my past," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We had a short relationship years ago, before we met. I thought I had moved on, but after everything that's happened lately, I reached out to him. I was confused, and I didn't know what to do. I never meant to hurt you." My stomach twisted. She had lied to me, and it wasn't just a one-time mistake. She had been hiding this from me for a long time. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Why did you feel the need to hide it from me?" "I didn't want to lose you," she said, tears filling her eyes. "I thought if you knew, you'd leave me. I was ashamed, and I didn't want you to see me as someone who had messed up. I never thought it would go this far. I never thought you'd find the ring. It's just a reminder of a mistake I made years ago, and I wanted to keep it buried. I should have been honest, and I'm sorry." After Sarah's confession, the air in the room felt heavy, thick with the weight of everything that had been left unsaid. She had admitted that she'd reached out to an ex, someone from her past, someone who she had obviously been hiding. But that didn't feel like the full story. There was more. I could tell by the way she was shifting uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. The words, "I didn't want to lose you," echoed in my mind, but they didn't fully make sense. What did she mean by that? Was it just guilt? "I don't understand," I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of frustration and confusion. "If it was just a mistake, why would you keep it hidden? Why hide his ring? Why hide anything at all?" Sarah sat there, wiping away her tears, struggling to find the right words. "I don't know." "I was embarrassed," she began, shaking her head. "I wasn't thinking clearly. We've been growing distant. I know I've been distant, and I just felt like, I don't know, like I wasn't enough anymore. Like maybe I needed something, someone to feel alive again. And I thought about Ryan, about what we had, and I reached out to him. I didn't know where else to go." "Wait a second," I said, my mind racing. "You were talking to him recently? While we've been together? While we've been married?" She hesitated for a moment, then nodded, her face full of regret. "Yes. A few times. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I wasn't thinking about you, or our kids, or our marriage. It was selfish and wrong, and I'm so sorry. But when I saw you start distancing yourself from me, when I felt like you weren't really here anymore, I reached out to him. I needed validation. I needed attention." My heart sank, and the words were hard to hear. It was painful to realize that our problems weren't just about miscommunication or growing apart. She had made the decision to go back to someone from her past, someone she had clearly not gotten over, instead of coming to me with her feelings. I felt betrayed, but more than that, I felt invisible. The woman I thought I knew, my partner, had let me down in a way I never imagined. I can't believe this is happening, I said, my voice cracking. I thought we were in this together. I thought we were working on things. How long has this been going on? I swear it wasn't physical, she quickly added, almost pleading. It was just emotional. We talked. I felt like I could tell him things I couldn't tell you, and it was wrong. I know that now. It's over. I swear it. I tried to process what she was saying. Emotional? Just talking? Did that make it better? Did that make it easier for me to understand? I don't know what to say, Sarah, I said quietly. You're telling me that for months, you were emotionally connected to someone else while we were supposed to be working on our marriage? That you were talking to someone who was in your past while I was here, trying to make it work with you? She reached out to me, her hands trembling. I never wanted to hurt you, Jeremy. I swear. I got lost, and it was a huge mistake. I didn't realize how far gone I was until I saw the way it was affecting you. And when I realized how much I had been hiding from you, I couldn't breathe anymore. I knew it was wrong, but I thought I could fix it on my own, and now I see how wrong I was. I sat back, feeling dizzy. The betrayal was cutting deeper than I expected. I tried to make sense of everything she had just said, but it felt like it wasn't even about Ryan anymore. It was about her, about how she had emotionally checked out of our marriage. I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that she had turned to someone else instead of coming to me. We're not even talking about the affair anymore, are we? I said bitterly. It's not about Ryan anymore. It's about how you felt like you weren't enough in this marriage, and I didn't even know it. How could I not have seen this? How did I not know that this was happening right under my nose? I don't know, Jeremy, she said softly, wiping away more tears. I don't know how to explain it. I was feeling empty, and I should have come to you with that. I should have told you how I was feeling instead of running to someone else. There was silence for a few moments. I could feel my chest tightening, the pain and the anger rising inside of me. My mind was a whirlwind of questions and emotions. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry, but all I could do was sit there in shock, feeling like I didn't even know who I was married to anymore. I stood up from the couch, needing to get away from the suffocating feeling that had filled the room. I walked to the window, staring out at the quiet street, trying to gather my thoughts. I needed to think. I needed to breathe. Jeremy, please, Sarah's voice broke through my thoughts. Don't walk away. I know I've messed up, but I'm committed to fixing this. I'll do anything. Please, just give me a chance to prove it. I didn't turn around. The urge to run away from this situation, to walk out the door and not look back, was overwhelming. But I knew I couldn't just give up on our marriage without fully considering what I wanted. Could I forgive her? Could I move forward from this? I didn't have an answer. I don't know if I can do this, Sarah, I said, my voice shaking. I don't know if I can forgive you. You've shattered my trust, and I don't know how to rebuild it. I don't even know where to start. She didn't respond right away, and I knew she understood. We were both standing at the edge of something we couldn't undo. There was no going back to the way things were before. I needed to figure out if this was something I could repair or if the damage had already been done beyond repair. The following days felt like I was walking through a fog. Every time I tried to interact with Sarah, I felt this cold barrier between us, a wall that wasn't there before. She kept apologizing, offering to do anything to make things right, but I wasn't sure what anything meant anymore. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about everything. The trust was gone, and in its place was a deep-seated doubt that was eating away at me. We tried talking a few times, but the conversations always ended in silence. She would cry, telling me how sorry she was, telling me that she loved me, and that she didn't know how she got so lost. But I was beyond the point of just hearing apologies. I wanted answers. I wanted to understand why she had emotionally checked out of our marriage, why she hadn't come to me when things were starting to slip, and why she had hidden everything from me. I feel like I don't even know who you are anymore, I said one night, after yet another attempt to discuss the affair. The woman I married would never hide things from me. The woman I married would have come to me. I don't understand why you didn't talk to me. She sat across from me, her eyes filled with tears. Jeremy, I know I've hurt you. I know I've betrayed you, and I can't take that back. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I'm here. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I shook my head. I don't know if you can fix this, Sarah. I don't know if I can even look at you the same way. You've been hiding this from me for so long. How could I ever trust you again? It was the question that haunted me every night. How could I ever trust her again? The idea of rebuilding trust seemed impossible. I didn't know if I could open up to her again, let her back into my life. What if I gave her a second chance, and this happened again? I couldn't risk it. but I didn't know if I was ready to walk away either. Sarah spent the next few days trying to show me she was committed. She suggested couples therapy, offering to be transparent about everything. She even started leaving her phone unlocked and gave me access to her social media accounts. But even as she did all these things, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that it wasn't enough. The damage had been done, and no amount of honesty could fix it. I felt lost. The man I had been, the person I was before I found out about Sarah's affair, felt like a distant memory. I didn't know who I was anymore or where I stood. I couldn't remember the last time I felt secure in my own life. All of that had been taken away in an instant. One day, after a particularly difficult conversation, I decided I needed time away from Sarah to think. I told her I was going to spend the weekend at a friend's house to clear my head. She tried to persuade me to stay, but I knew I needed space, some time alone to think about what I wanted and where this was headed. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and left. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small sense of relief. I needed to escape from the emotional chaos I was living in, even if it was just for a short time. I didn't want to make a hasty decision, but I knew I couldn't keep living in this state of uncertainty. I needed clarity. I spent the weekend talking to my close friends, people I trusted completely. I told them everything, how I found the ring, how Sarah had admitted to reaching out to Ryan, and how I had no idea what to do next. My friends were supportive, but they didn't sugarcoat anything. One of them asked me a question that stuck with me. Do you think you could ever forgive her, Jeremy? Or do you think this is the end? It was the hardest question I had been asked in a long time. Could I forgive her? I didn't know. But I knew that whatever decision I made, it had to be one I could live with. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. By Sunday night, I was exhausted, mentally and emotionally. I had spent hours weighing the pros and cons, asking myself if there was any way forward. I missed Sarah. I missed our life together, but I also felt the weight of everything she had done. The lies, the secrecy, the affair, it all felt like a heavy burden I didn't know how to carry. When I returned home, Sarah was waiting for me. Her face was pale, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. She stood up when I walked in and immediately rushed over to me. Jeremy, I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I can't even imagine what you're going through, but I will do whatever it takes. Please tell me you'll give me a chance. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to believe that we could work things out, but I wasn't sure if I could ever get past the hurt. I had always believed in second chances, but this felt different. This wasn't just a small mistake. This was a betrayal. A deep, painful betrayal. I don't know, Sarah, I said, my voice hoarse. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can trust you again. I thought I knew you, and now I feel like I don't. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. I understand. I know I've destroyed your trust. But if you'll give me a chance, I'll show you that I can change. I'll do whatever it takes. I love you, Jeremy, and I don't want to lose you. I took a deep breath. I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I had to decide what I could live with. Could I rebuild this marriage? Could I live with the memory of her betrayal? Could I trust her again? It was a decision I couldn't make on the spot, but I promised myself that I would give it time. Time to heal, time to think. I needed to figure out what was best for me, for us, for our family. After returning home, I realized that taking some time away hadn't provided the clarity I was hoping for. In fact, it had made things more complicated. The feelings I had been avoiding were now at the forefront of my mind. I missed Sarah in ways I couldn't ignore, but the betrayal had left a mark I wasn't sure could be healed. How could I go back to being the man I was before? How could I look at her the same way after everything? Sarah gave me the space I asked for, but she was also persistent. She checked in on me constantly, letting me know she was willing to do whatever it took to repair the damage. She was doing the hard work, attending therapy on her own, being open about her feelings, and trying to be as transparent as possible. But even as she worked hard to prove herself, the nagging doubt was always there, gnawing at me. Our first few interactions after my return were awkward. Every conversation felt forced, like I was talking to someone I didn't fully know anymore. I found myself analyzing everything she said, wondering if there were more secrets she was still hiding. I would catch her looking at her phone or sneaking off to take a call, and my mind would race. Was she talking to Ryan again? Was she hiding something else? The fear of being lied to again began to consume me, but I knew I couldn't live in this state of constant suspicion. If we were going to move forward, I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, but I also couldn't keep holding on to the anger and hurt from the past. A few days later, we sat down for another conversation. This time, I was determined to speak openly, to express everything I had been feeling. I had been bottling it all up, but I knew if we were going to rebuild our relationship, I had to be honest with her, honest about my fears, my doubts, and my pain. "I'm scared, Sarah," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm scared that I'm just going to keep hurting. I'm scared that I'm going to forgive you, and then everything will fall apart again. I don't know how to trust you anymore." She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I know, Jeremy. I know I've broken your trust, and I'm so sorry. I can't change what I did, but I can show you that I'm committed to making things right. I know it's going to take time, but I want to prove to you that I'm here, that I'm your wife, and that I'm never going to hurt you again." I took a deep breath. "But how do I know that, Sarah? How do I know you won't just keep hiding things from me? How do I know you're really being honest?" "I'll be an open book, Jeremy. No more secrets. I'll answer any questions you have, no matter how painful. I want to be transparent with you about everything, because I want you to trust me again." I wasn't sure if I could ever fully trust her again, but I could see she was serious. She wasn't making excuses anymore. She wasn't trying to downplay what she had done. She was owning up to it. That meant something to me. It wasn't enough to erase the hurt, but it was a step in the right direction. After that conversation, things started to shift. Slowly, but surely, I began to let go of some of the doubt. I didn't expect it to be easy. Trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight, but I was willing to take the first steps. We agreed to keep attending therapy together, to work on rebuilding our communication and intimacy. And while we weren't back to where we were before, it felt like we were finally starting to move in the right direction. But there were still days when I felt like I was walking through quicksand. Some days, the pain would resurface, and I would find myself questioning everything again. Other days, I would look at Sarah and feel the love that I had for her before, the woman who had been my partner, my best friend. It was those moments that kept me going, that kept me from giving up. We also had conversations about the future, about how we could rebuild not just our relationship, but also our connection. We talked about our goals, our dreams, and what we wanted our marriage to look like moving forward. It wasn't just about moving past the affair. It was about learning how to be better for each other, how to communicate and love in a way that we hadn't before. Despite the progress, I knew we weren't out of the woods yet. Rebuilding a marriage after betrayal takes time, and I wasn't sure what the future held. There were still moments when the hurt would hit me out of nowhere, when I would question if I had made the right choice. But at the same time, there were moments of connection, of closeness, that reminded me why I had fallen in love with her in the first place. I think we both knew that the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. We had to take it one day at a time. There would be setbacks, and there would be challenges, but there was also a chance for healing. We were both committed to doing the work, to rebuilding not just our marriage, but our individual selves as well. I didn't know if I would ever fully be able to trust Sarah the way I had before, but I knew one thing. I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. It's been a few weeks since Sarah and I decided to take a more proactive approach toward healing. Things have been better, but I'm learning quickly that healing isn't a straight line. There are ups and downs, good days and bad days. There are times when I feel like we're on the right path, and other times when the doubt and anger creep back in. The hardest part has been the slow rebuilding of trust. It's not something that can be fixed with just a few apologies or gestures. It's a constant, ongoing effort. Sarah has continued to be transparent. She leaves her phone unlocked. She tells me about every message, every phone call, and while that's helped, it's still not enough to completely erase the pain I feel when I think about what happened. The fear of being betrayed again still lingers in the back of my mind. I started looking for ways to rebuild my own sense of self. I've been spending more time focusing on my own well-being, whether it's going for runs in the mornings or seeing a therapist myself. It's been helpful to have someone to talk to who isn't emotionally involved in the situation, someone who can help me process the feelings I've been bottling up. But despite the therapy, despite the efforts to be transparent, there are still moments where it feels like Sarah is a stranger to me. She's trying. I can see that. But am I? Am I truly trying to forgive her? Or am I just pretending because I don't want to admit that our marriage might be irreparable? Last night, something happened that shook me to my core. I was getting ready to go to bed, and as I walked into our room, I noticed Sarah's phone on the nightstand. It was unlocked. In the past, I had forced myself to stop checking her phone, to stop looking for evidence of betrayal. But last night, for some reason, I couldn't stop myself. I know it was wrong. I know I promised I wouldn't snoop, but in that moment, I just couldn't help it. I picked up her phone and saw a text message from Ryan. It wasn't the first time I had seen Ryan's name, but this time felt different. It wasn't just a casual text. The words were clear. I miss you. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I hope you're okay. My heart dropped. It felt like all the progress we had made over the past few weeks had been torn apart in an instant. I immediately felt sick to my stomach. I didn't know how long I sat there holding the phone. My hands were shaking. I knew I had to confront Sarah, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The pain was too fresh. The doubt was overwhelming. Was I foolish to think she had truly cut ties with him? The next morning, I couldn't sleep. I had barely slept at all after reading that message, and when Sarah woke up, I knew I had to confront her. I had to get the answers I needed, even if it meant tearing apart the fragile trust we had built. I waited until we were alone in the kitchen. I couldn't look at her when I said it. Sarah, I saw the message from Ryan. She froze. Her face went pale, and I could see the fear in her eyes. I wasn't angry yet, just devastated. But I could feel the anger starting to bubble beneath the surface. Jeremy, I'm sorry, she said immediately. I didn't want you to see that. I didn't mean for it to happen. We've just been talking. That's it. I swear. I wasn't planning on anything. I could feel the hurt creeping back in. I didn't want to hear excuses. I didn't want to hear the same apologies that I had heard over and over again. Talking? I asked, my voice shaking. Is that what you're calling it? After everything we've been through, Sarah? After everything I've done to try to make this work, you're still talking to him. She started crying, her shoulders shaking. I don't want to hurt you. I swear. I don't want him. I want you, Jeremy. But I reached out to him because I didn't know how else to deal with everything I was feeling. It was wrong, and I know it. I shouldn't have done it. But I want to be with you. I love you. I don't want him. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream, to throw something. But I didn't. I just stood there, feeling my heart breaking all over again. This wasn't just about her affair anymore. It was about my self-worth, about feeling like I wasn't enough. Why wasn't I enough? Sarah, I don't know if I can keep doing this, I said quietly, almost to myself. I don't know if I can keep trying when it feels like you're still holding on to someone else. I don't know if I can rebuild this. The days that followed felt like a blur. Sarah continued to apologize, continued to beg for my forgiveness. But the doubt inside me was louder than ever. She had promised me it was over with Ryan, and yet, here I was, standing in the same place as before, questioning everything again. I couldn't keep living in uncertainty. I couldn't keep wondering if she was hiding something, if she was still holding on to someone from her past. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if I was ready to walk away from everything. I wasn't sure if I could give up on her, on us. After talking with my therapist and getting some perspective, I realized something important. I needed to decide what was best for me. I couldn't keep waiting for Sarah to prove herself to me. I couldn't keep questioning everything she did. I had to trust myself, my instincts, and figure out if I could truly move forward with her or if I needed to walk away for my own peace of mind. That night, I sat down with Sarah. I could see the anxiety in her eyes as I spoke. Sarah, I said, my voice steady. I've made my decision. I need to take some time for myself. I need to figure out if I can move past this. I don't know if I can ever forgive you fully, but I can't keep questioning everything. I need space. Her face fell, and for the first time, I saw the desperation in her eyes. Please, Jeremy, she whispered. I love you. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. But in my heart, I knew I had to step back. I had to find out if I could trust myself again, if I could trust her again. We both needed time to heal, to reflect, and to make the decision of whether or not we could rebuild. It was the hardest decision I've ever had to make, but I knew it was the right one. I needed space, and I needed clarity. For the first time, I wasn't holding on to hope alone. I was holding on to my own peace of mind.